Hello investors and welcome to the weekly market report with the market guys. I'm AJ Monty. This is a one-year daily candle chart of the Russell 2000 index, ticker symbol RUT. And I've left my lines on this chart from last week's report, and I've actually left my lines on from the last 2 weeks. And you'll see as I zoom in here how accurate candle charts are when it comes to forecasting the market. This was the 2-week forecast. I said we would move lower, and then I said we would pivot and move back up. And I really have to zoom in here to show you how accurate this is. It's almost as if the market followed my line. Of course, that's not the case, but it seems that way. And you can see that the closing price of the Russell 2000 today was within pennies of my target. The end of this line is my target. And so what does that mean for next week? Well, if we look down at the CCI down here, I'll have to condense this scale. I also forecasted what the CCI would do. I said the CCI would move a little bit lower and then pivot up. And as I magnify that for you so you can see it again, that line falls right on top of my forecast. But you can see that the CCI has now hinged lower. And that's telling us that the sellers are starting to move in, and you can see that the stochastics here, this blue line, is moving from an upward direction and is now hinged to a slightly lower position, so that's showing downward momentum. And there's still a gap below the market down here in the Russell 2000. Now, I don't think we're going to fill that gap next week, but I think we're going to move towards it. So my forecast line is going to look something like this. And you'll notice the angle at which I'm drawing this is very similar to the angle that I drew back here and the angle that I drew back here. When the market pulls back, it tends to keep these angles in place on the way up and on the way down. So I'm going to forecast that with the end of that line being my target for next week. Now, if I look at the spiders, that's ticker symbol SPY, it's the S&P 500 ETF, it's going to be a little bit different. We did have a pivot point. We didn't come down as low, but we definitely blew past my target right here. And this week, we have a bearish engulfing pattern. Let me erase all these lines so you can see the significance of what I'm talking about here. A bearish engulfing pattern is when you have a long-bodied red candle that engulfs or almost eclipses, you could say, the smaller body of this green candle. And I think that the spiders could actually pull back and test this support level down here. So this is going to be my forecast line for next week. I'm going to extend that a little bit further out, make that even a 2-week forecast. And you'll notice that even though we had red candles, the stochastics is heading higher, but notice the hinge in the CCI. The CCI is much more sensitive than the stochastics, so I'm going with the CCI, and you can see that this red candle was on slightly higher red volume. So that's telling us the sellers are starting to heat up. The other thing I want to mention is that the price divergence from this 20-period moving average is extended to the point where we saw back here. So the S&P does not like to trade and even stay this far above that moving average. It tends to pull back to it. So that's what we're forecasting for the S&P. Now, to support that, let's look at the VIX. The volatility index is a leading indicator that is inversely related to the S&P. And I said that we would move up. You can see we hit that target and came right back down and blew past the end of the line right there for my target. So I'm going to erase all of these lines and then translate what we're seeing here on this chart. This green candle right there is known as a spinning top. It's a small-bodied candle, and it's a sign of indecision. So we have a support level for the VIX, and I think that that support level is going to hold as we start to move back up to test this resistance. And you can see that the CCI is starting to change from this downward direction to not so extreme on the downside, but it's starting to hinge here. And so that spinning top is really what I'm paying most attention to, because if you look, we have a long stretch of red in here, right? We have 7 red candles in a row, and now we finally have that green candle. So I think the volatility index is going to start to move up, and that will in turn push the S&P down. Now let's look at the Qs. This is the Nasdaq market, QQQ. You can see that we've had a nice run. We did rally like I said we would, and just like the S&P, if I zoom in just a little bit more, we do have a bearish engulfing pattern right there. I'm going to erase all these lines to clean it up. In addition to the bearish engulfing pattern, you can see a wide divergence from that moving average. You see the stochastics is turning lower, the CCI is turning lower, so all indication is telling us that the Qs are going to pull back next week as well. I'm ending that line right there because as the time progresses, this moving average is most likely going to meet up with the price, and I think we're going to see some selling pressure in the Qs as well. Now finally, the diamonds. That's the Dow Jones Industrial Average ETF, same thing. Bearish engulfing pattern, high volume on that bearish engulfing pattern. The stochastics is still heading up, but it's in overbought territory. And look at that CCI, an extreme hinge to the downside. So I think the Dow is going to move right back to this moving average just like that. And I'm going to leave that in place for next week. So if you'd like to learn more about what we do at The Market Guys, just go to themarketguys.com. Click on the video tab right there at the top of the page, and that's going to bring you to a video library where we have what we call market shots. These are very short videos, more or less 6 to 7 minutes in length, and it'll give you some ideas on how we look at the market. And you definitely want to look at the role reversal here, because as we pull back and test support, you'll see that the roll will most likely reverse at former resistance areas. You'll learn more about that when you watch that video. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. Have a good weekend, and we will talk to you soon. So long.
This video segment is a small part of what the Market Guys offer through their educational products and services. If you are interested in any of our trade alert services, or you would like more information about our one-on-one mentoring program, simply contact us at info@themarketguys.com.